And so what they had planned to just have the boatyard move the existing pumps off of the float pump and set it on the new barge. Okay, and by new barge, it was new to them. It was used, and anyway, so that was the plan. But they weren't able to get there because the drought happened, and then it had to sit on the lake for 3 years. Okay, there were concerns when it was launched about the connection, the way it was connected, and whether that functioned, because they had to come up with some funky welded hinge and some different things to make it work. And it isn't easy at all to launch or to primarily move, because one barge goes this way and one barge goes that way. So you're trying to push it like this, sideways, with the pontoon sideways. The reason it came off so quickly is because it was almost sinking. That was it. It came off and sat in the yard, and we should have known to raise them up. But I don't know that. I'm not sure how much experience Randy had with that, with decommissioning them and servicing them, and I didn't remember. I mean, it's just something I would not have known. But back to your question about the specific, what's going to happen with the float pumps and the barge. The float pumps need to be ready to go, because we don't have a second pump at intake right now. Through October, we're not going to be able to meet the water demand if that second pump goes out. Okay? So we've got to get pontoons on that boat, we're ready to get the motors serviced, have those ready to go, get pontoons put on that existing float pump. Then that thing can be launched just the way that it was. The big barge has to be serviced and some other things, but it will then function the way that it did before. Okay? So it would just be that old float pumps having new pontoons that would support that barge the way it is.
How much money do you get to there, not counting the pumps, or how much?
I don't know.
Guess.
Within that budget or not? Within the $30,000.
Did you find that original when you were here?
No, it was here before.
Before you?
Yeah.
Is that well spent money?
That's been around.
Yes, yeah.
Do you think it is 30? That's well spent money. 30,000.
Probably.
I'm sorry, so what was that 30,000 for? Was
The
it just to
30,000.
check out whether or not it's...
No, the 30,000 is in next year's budget, or this year's budget.
Or was
The
it just to check
30,000.
out whether or not it's...
No, the 30,000 is in next year's budget, or this year's budget, to bring the barge into an operational mode as built as today. It's just to do repairs and, I'll say, maintenance.
And that would cost, in my mind, that would cost less than getting the other pump up to speed.
Oh,
Yeah.
substantially less.
So basically we have a last century barge and this century barge, correct?
Yeah.
And we're still in our T configuration.
True.
It's not user friendly. It's not moving.
Yes.
It's not good to move. It's not.
Mm-hmm.
And to take the next step beyond that and would be considerably more.
With Elizabeth and I, we've talked about at least paying to have a structural engineer come out, and because they're going to have to tell them what size pontoons anyway. This is not something that the maintenance guys can figure out at the boat yard. They probably could, but an engineer's going to have to tell us what size of pontoons to put on there, okay? Just because those pumps are
Heavy.
crazy heavy. Okay, so that is step number one. I got to find the engineer to tell me about the pontoons, and then those guys will get those put on there as quickly as we can get them and get them ready to go. I don't like the investment just because I'm not sure we can ever make that thing functional really functional as it is. However, we might not, if we turned it over to a structural engineer to design moving them over from the floating pump to the barge, I don't know that we'll ever get an engineer to come up with the right design. So I don't know that that other big, however, we might not, if we turned it over to a structural engineer to design moving them over from the floating pump to the barge, I don't know that we'll ever get an engineer to come up with the right design. So I don't know that that other big platform is going to function. It's I don't know.
Bad condition? Bad.
No, it's just not, it's not intended to hold pumps. You can't put it in the middle because it's sealed bottom. The whole thing is sealed all the way. It's one big pontoon.
This is all sitting at the marina right now.
Yeah. It's, so it's a sealed bottom, okay? We'd have to penetrate through to put them anywhere but hang them off the back. But you got motors on the back. So you've got a motor to drive the barge. So there's a lot of, you can't get in the way of you can't be right there where the motors are. So you gotta set them off to the side. So you gotta look at how that structurally is gonna work. And is it, it's sitting way off the back of the boat.
So this century barge
Yes.
is okay. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just the last century barge is not good.
This century barge,
Is the one with the motor.
it's fine for having a barbecue with the family.
Yeah, right.
You know,
It's like
driving
a,
out
it's like
on
a
the
little
lake.
aircraft carrier, right?
Yeah.
Okay. But, so there's nothing wrong with that, so it's just the other one. Just the,
Right.
the last century one, which makes sense. It's probably 19-something, right?
Well, so
So fix
I'm
it.
kind of getting some head shakes and head nods and,
Well, what I've heard, right now, the goal was to move it because operations staff, had a hard time, I'll say, moving the pump float out into the lake. So we got a motorized barge or boat, whatever you want to call it, so they could move it out and anchor it better. But now what we have is a misconfigured motorized barge with a floating pump float. Because it's like a T, as he said.
And a propensity to sink.
Well, I wouldn't say propensity to sink, because the damn thing's been in the water for I don't know how long, and probably never had any maintenance done, like you know that as well. So you can't really complain about, I have no idea how old it is, or how old those steel pontoons are. Like you know that as well. So you can't really complain about, I have no idea how old it is, or how old those steel pontoons are. So we can't, it's like everything else. We gotta fix it.
probably from the drought of the late 80s,
So it's
I would say.
late 80s, so it's 30 years old, going
Before
on
that,
40.
it was I know it was out there then.
So like everything else that we do, we're sort of in a corner, and we have to make this decision, and we have to do it. It's no choice, because you've got to have water, and time's running out, so we've got to fix it. I mean, that's my opinion. We've got to fix this float barge to make it operable enough to get by it like we do everything, like we used to put Band-Aids on the laterals, it's the same kind of thing. Another Band-Aid,
This is
but an
like,
expensive Band-Aid.
this is like an insurance policy to me. We've
It
got to
is.
do this.
You've got to do it.
We can't afford not to have an alternate source, because our emergency is an emergency, but then we're gonna have to send out a notification that says, okay, cut your water use by 50% starting today, and we'll let you know. Well, people, we know that that's not gonna go over. People don't, we know that. So we have to position the district to have another source, another option to pump out of the lake. So
It's a no-brainer.
So you're gonna have an engineer tell you whether this century barge is acceptable to handle the pumps before we move on making this century barge the one and only boat we use.
the only thing I would
Tell you whether this century barge is acceptable to handle the pumps before we move on making this century barge the one and only boat we use.
The only thing I would ask is, listening to you describe it, and I've seen it, I've been on it, the only thing I would say is, due to the fact we're in a T shape, if they have to redesign it, is there anything that we could do to make it align, where it's easier for the staff to operate?
That's what I was gonna say, when they're designing when they're designing the pontoons, they will look at that. Is there a way that they can configure the hinge?
Go the same direction.
Yeah, so that they're going the same direction. And it may be that we just gotta spin the pumps or something.
Or do we put a 90 or something on the head of the pump so the water comes on, does a 90? And, you know, or whatever, because to make it simpler and better for the staff.
We're trying to engineer this here at this meeting.
That's right.
Let's stop.
Okay,
When we were getting those reports about stuff sinking and stuff, it was the last century barge that was.
right.
Yes.
Right.
Where are we at?
Not the,
Where we at is,
We're still talking about.
I mean,
okay, Pete wanted to hear from, I think, the board as far as what do we feel was the priorities. And the priorities was to get
in what sequence are we doing that?
Just the priorities are detailed in the memo, and I'm gonna follow that unless I'm directed differently by the board. And the priorities are I kind of went through it. Get the motors fixed, get the, the existing barge serviced, get the new pontoons onto the old century floating pumps.
I'll tell you,
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I'm comfortable with get those pumps fixed. Get the motor service, get the pump sealed, resealed, get those fixed. And show your board what we're talking about. That's far enough to go at this point.
Pete, why does the board have to, what is the reasoning for us having to approve? Because of the dollar figure or something?
You don't have to approve anything.
There's nothing to approve on.
No, it's only if there was, if there was disagreement with the memo, if you felt that the priorities were out of order, if you wanted to just risk it, and Russ asked a good question, is that a good investment? To put pontoons on that old float.
I'm not convinced.
I'm not convinced it is either.
I just want
But it's the timeline, I can just tell you, it's the timeline to get a design done on an unknown barge, the big one.
You get the pumps fixed, and if the worst thing out of that pump died, we can figure out some way to make them work from basically the side of the ship, whatever. We gotta have pumps though.
You gotta
have a
though,
barge.
you gotta get out for
You
it.
gotta have a pump.
The barge might sit on the back of a truck halfway in the water, I don't care about that. You know, the bottom line is we gotta have the pumps,
Yeah.
that's the key to the whole thing. I just gotta see these things, I can't.
Okay, I'll tell you what, afterwards, we're gonna go down, I'm gonna take you down there.
Cool.
So we'll go after the meeting. Anybody else wanna go?
Well, then we can't, we got Brown Act problems.
We're not gonna talk business.
Okay.
We're just
So
gonna
look at.
No, I'll take it, yeah, I mean, it's no big deal.
All right,
I can-
all right.
So what are we looking for? As far as-
What do you want from us to move forward?
That would be the kind of direction that I need. If
Just
you
agree on
don't,
this
I'm
priority.
telling you, as of today, when we move on to the next item, I'm gonna be putting pontoons on that existing floating pump.
Okay,
That's,
so do you want a board consensus?
no, you don't.
Okay, I'm just trying to make sure we.
You've already approved a budget amount,
All right,
and it's barge, the barge improvements.
okay, all right, so we're done. You have our thoughts, you have our support. Go get the damn thing fixed.
Yeah.
Okay.
We done.
No, we're not done. We have item 5E,